Hi everyone, this is Concy from atop Serenity Hill. Today I just wanted to give you a few brush strokes that you can do to just add some dimension to your face painting. They're just brush strokes that I'm going to use with a number 4 round brush. And any round brush really will work. Some people like to go a little smaller, 2s or 3s. Others will go up to like a 5 or 6. I tend to stay around the 4, and I own quite a few of these 4s. And any brand really will do. You have to kind of find what works for you. This one, just so people will know, is called the Princeton Art and Brush Company, but Royal Works, you know, anything by Plaid or One Stroke Brush Line would work just fine. So I have my white face paint cake, my Wolf by Wolf, which is my favorite brand, and just some water. And I'm going to show you a couple of strokes. So when you're using the water and the brush, you don't have to spray it. You can just dip the brush in the water and run it across the cake so that it creates almost an inky consistency. You don't want it to be too wet because then it will run. So you want it to be more of an ink consistency. And I roll the brush in the paint just so that it comes to a point. And the first stroke you want to just practice would be to just go thick and thin. So you just want to practice going thin or pushing down and making thick strokes. So you want to go ahead and just keep doing that until you get a nice line that flows. The way you can also get a flat brush, well, it's not flat, it's round, a round brush to look flat and get this really thin line is to just keep going on the cake until you flatten it. And then you have a line that can be very thin. Just like that. Going again, here we are again, I've wiped off my arm to practice. I want to add, the next line would be to combine the thin and the thick together. So you would start up on the point of the brush, and you're going to go thin, start to push pressure, and then release back up again to get a thin line. And you can also create the thinness by slightly rolling your brush. If you start thin, you push, and then to come back up because you've compressed all the bristles, just roll it slightly in your fingers as you release the pressure, and you will have a thin ending to your brush, or to your stroke, I should say. So again, thin, thick, and thin. The other way you can use the thin and thick line is to do it in a semicircle, or to form like a C. So you would start thin, push around in a half circle, and then come thin again. So thin, thick, thin. And of course you should be able to do it in both directions. But this is something that I use to outline the like around the mouth of a cat, their muzzle, or to outline maybe the edge of a butterfly wing, that sort of thing. So you just want to make sure that you have a couple different strokes in your repertoire. That way, as you're building designs, tigers or butterflies, anything of that sort, you'll be able to try different kinds of strokes that will help bring dimension to the piece. So we're going to wipe this off, and I'll come and show you another one. So this is yet another variation on the thin, thick, thin, and it would be a way to do tiger stripes. And so what you're going to do is when you start going thick, thin, thin, can't say that again, thin, thick, thin, you want to just kind of give it a little wiggle and roll. So it's not as perfect. It has more of a varied edge to it. You can also do it so that it changes direction in V's, because tigers have stripes going in many different directions. And this is also great if you're doing like just a simple eye design that is like a tiger eye or something like that. Then you want to be able to just have a couple little quick, see how that puddled? That means my paint was too thin. You want to make sure it's still at an inky consistency, because if this was on someone's face, it would run. So, but I'll just end up just picking up the excess. And there is too much paint in my brush. But that's why we practice. This tiger stripe can also work in a curve if you're doing the side of a butterfly. If you come in and do thick smash it down and then come back in again, you can build up a butterfly wing pretty quickly by just having the thin, thick, thin, but being way more regular in the back end by smashing it down, just wiggling it around. So you have a lot of different options. It also is great because then you don't have to be perfect about the stroke, and the regularity of it gives it really a lot more dimension. So I've got one more stroke for you, as you can see with my bright red arm. That's what happens when you practice on your arm a lot. I do always recommend that you practice on your arm or your leg and not your face necessarily if you're just practicing to continually rub off. If you're going to practice a full face, that's different. But if you're just practicing strokes, I would always practice on your arm or your leg just because the skin's a little tougher. Okay, so the final one is to just do some teardrops. And those are done, again, thick to thin. There are a couple different ways to do teardrops. I find this technique is the easiest for me, and that is just pushing and releasing up to a point. And I do, see, paint still a little thick, I do roll the brush when I come out of the teardrop. So I'm pushing and I'm rolling the brush slightly in my finger. Okay, so you can practice just going straight, and then you want to practice them more as a comma. So you're going to be pushing and then twisting, pushing and twisting to a point. Push, roll slightly. And of course, if you can go one way, you should be able to practice the other way. And these are just extra pieces that you can add to any design just to outline. If you put a bunch of them in a circle and add a yellow center, you would have a daisy. So there's lots of things. Once you have a variety of strokes that you can make with a paintbrush, then you can start building on designs and adding your own spin and things that you're comfortable making. And your designs will become more personal, and you know, even though you're following a pattern or following someone's directions, after a while you'll be able to put your own spin on it, and that's what the fun's all about. I have one more stroke to show you. This is one of my favorites, and it's a curlicue, or just a swirl. I suppose you could just call it a swirl. And the same idea of staying up on the tip of your brush. You don't have to do, you could do swirls without a lot of pressure, or you can do them so that when you come around you do have pressure on the outer edge of it. That way you have that gives it a really good nice dimension. If you start thin, push it really thick, and then end thin again. And they can build off of each other, swirling in different directions. And these are also nice if you wanted to add, if you base coated someone's eye with a lot of different colors, and then just from those colors added maybe some black and white swirls off of their eye. It's a great design. We actually call them glamour eyes. It doesn't really have anything, it's not a specific design. It's just color base coating, and then lots of swirls and teardrops and maybe some tiger stripes, that sort of thing around the eye. And you have like a glamorous eye makeup design. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to just put a couple strokes together. I've got some red paint here. And I'm going to just quickly make a butterfly shape. Nothing crazy, just filling in just a general shape of a butterfly. Just like that. And I'm using the still number 4 round brush. And I'm going to take my white paint. And I'm going to do a thick, thin, wow, that was thin, thick, thin around one side. The red's still wet, so of course it's still a little bit on the pink side. And then we're going to do thin, thick, thin. And then a couple teardrops along the bottom of the wing. One big teardrop as the body. You can add some teardrops in the wing itself. And you've got just a simple butterfly shape, Add some glitter, maybe add a couple dots. Into the shape. I love dots, I put them on everything. And you'll have a simple butterfly that you can do on someone's arm.